Hey, tonight on the Old Time Mini Show, we'll be painting these complicated Vrusk insectoid aliens from the 1980 Star Frontiers game. Yeah, good evening, everybody. If you're here live on a Thursday night, welcome to Wandering DM's HQ here in Brooklyn, New York. And as you can see here in a little bit, we're going to be painting these Vrusk aliens from the Star Frontiers game. We've been working on casting these, on molding and then casting these for about the last 3 weeks. And we had an epic, if you were here last week, we had the longest stream ever on this show as I fought with some great help from our viewers, fought trying to actually successfully cast these guys. And after about 4 hours of live streaming, managed to actually get the mold to work. And of course that involved air venting every single one of these legs outside the mold, and then metal was pouring out and all kinds of crazy stuff. But we finally did it. So I do actually have 3 of these Vrusk aliens successfully cast. Gonna paint them tonight in a little bit. Before we get to that, and Baccrius, thanks so much for checking in that the stream is live on Twitch and YouTube. So we're gonna get that in a little bit. Before I actually paint the Vrusk here, I have a little bit of other work I'm gonna do here. Specifically, so I have been playing Star Frontiers game with some of my local players here for a couple weeks now, and one of the things that has occurred is that some of the miniatures are just a little bit unsteady on the table, and some of them, like these Vrusk, actually are very nicely stable. Obviously they have a ton of a ton of surface area, so they're not going to tip over or anything like that. But some of our other miniatures are not quite as wonderfully put together. Hey William, yes, yeah, you're right. I do to prep for stuff that takes a long time to dry. I did modify. I filed down a little bit. I drilled out where the 2 parts connect a little bit off camera, and then let that sit, and then I primed them. I think a couple days ago is what I did. So that obviously takes a number of hours and isn't super interesting. So I do assemble them off screen, and now they're ready to actually paint and prime all the way around. So hopefully that's okay. But before I get to actually painting them, on that subject of assembling some stuff, I have some. So I have some pre-made bases for that I got for miniatures. In the past, I've normally constructed my own bases out of balsa wood, but at this point, I'm kind of looking to save time. So now, for the first time ever, I'm just buying some pre-made plastic bases. I think these are 3/4 inch each, which is what I want. So let me pull open. And what you're going to accidentally get to see here is my little pack of stuff that I take on the road when I go to somebody else's house to run stuff. I actually, as you know, I normally, when I get the super glue out, I do normally manage to glue my fingers together. And actually, you're going to see that right now. And I think I came real close. I got them like a little bit sticky at one point, but I did manage to avoid completely reducing myself to 4 fingers. But maybe tonight. You never know. It's quite possible. So for what it's worth, here's my little pack of accoutrements that I take when I'm playing at somebody else's house. And among the couple of things there is I have a tape measure there. We don't use that a lot, but in case you want to measure long distance stuff, I get a tape measure there. And then recently, I do like having jumbo dice for refereeing. And for quite a long time, I've had jumbo D20s and D6s that I use when I'm running D&D. So just a couple weeks ago, I sent away and ordered these jumbo D10s for percentile stuff. And again, Star Frontiers is totally decimalized. The skill checks are always percentile based, so I just recently got this purple and this blue percentile dice, and I have a little dice tray because I get overexcited normally. throw the dice off the table is pretty common, but for visibility, I kind of like having these big dice here. So that's new to the kit a little while ago. And then I have, and I'm not super careful about it, I have them all jumbled together. So here's the Star Frontiers miniatures that we've been working on the last couple of weeks. Get these guys out of there. So I've got my Yazirians, I got my Dralicites. Okay, notice that my Yazirians are toppling over immediately as soon as I put them on the table, which is the thing that I'm dealing with right now. The Dralicite blobby guys are low enough that that's not an issue. But the Yazirians are a little bit narrow, right? They're tall, they're narrow, so they tend to fall over a little bit, particularly if I have them on a battle map that was rolled up or folded and you have some kinks in it or something like that. They're falling over a lot. So those guys I want to put on bigger bases to kind of prevent that. The Dralicites I think are okay. They've been fine. Come over here. Work cardboard. Okay, so a little bit of assembly stuff to start with tonight. Which I like. You know, I'm constantly surprised when other people say they don't like this part of it. Like, William, I know that you do a whole lot of construction stuff, so I know you're in the camp of fundamentally liking this kind of stuff. But I constantly hear people saying they don't like assembling miniatures. Again, I was talking to my partner Isabelle again, who has a terminal degree in sculpture, and she's saying I hate the mold making, which is crazy to me, but different strokes. So let me think about what do I want. So should I put them on? I'm debating whether I should put them on straight on the base or if I should put them on diagonal, which fits a little bit better. These guys are also tilted just a little bit face down, which isn't ideal, I don't think. I tried warming it and bending it a little bit, and I couldn't quite get it perfectly straight. So it is what it is. William, I feel the love-hate with the hobby. I've been grappling with that this week myself, frankly. Like, was this trying to find ways to make things efficient? I'm not a lazy DM, and sometimes I wish I was. I think I like how that looks better diagonally, so I think I'm going to do that. I don't know. So now, like, is that going to cause argument about, like, do I get back attacks someday? I don't know. I guess maybe like half and half. Actually, that looks pretty good to me right there. I hear that. I hear that so much. Yeah, diagonal. Yeah. I'm gonna put a little diagonal so that it's hopefully clear what counts as the backside. Yeah, I think it looks better. I agree. I think it looks better. I think it's probably going to be more stable that way. Now this surface is a little bit textured, and this isn't sticking. the metal to the plastic isn't sticking immediately as much as I'd like. So I have to press down with my fingers very hard, and this is how I'm going to get them stuck. If I was really smart, I would go get some fingernail polish and like have it on the side of my table here tonight for when that occurs. I wonder if this would be better. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit for a better angle. Just look away before you get vertigo. Yeah, let me try it like this. And I hadn't opened up the container of bases. I hadn't thought about this till this very second. I'll do it like this, and if it falls off later, I'll think about something else. File the underside of the metal. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? It is kind of. I'm seeing it is kind of rough here. Get that in focus. Yeah, that's a little bit uneven on the bottom, so I'm not getting. I think you can see that. So I'm not getting perfect adhesion there. You know what? Let me. I didn't think I was going to have to do this. I'll be right back once I get my tools for that. I did not think I was going to have to do metal work tonight. I'll take the opportunity, if you're new to the show, these are old school lead-based miniatures, both the originals and the duplicates that I've made. So we're trying to be careful with the lead material. Right this second, I'm going to be filing some stuff off. And after the show, I'm going to carefully clean the area, clean my hands, not get anything in my mouth, make sure I'm not near food service items, stuff like that. The days that I'm pouring rubber or using release mold, there's vapors, so I always have my windows open here. Maybe I should get better ventilation. Have an air quality monitor here that I'm looking all the time. So trying to be careful about that kind of stuff. You know, get your parents to help you if you need to, kids. All you kids watching the Old Time Minis show tonight. I'm glad you said this one. Honestly, my first instinct would have been to file down the bases, which probably wouldn't do so well since they're plastic. And you can see all these filings I'm getting here, so that's the kind of thing I'm trying to be careful about not like throwing everywhere. All right, let's see how this works. Oh, Tanner Cass, a little baby powder mixed with the super glue will make a thicker goop. Oh geez, that's genius. Huh. Interesting. Where do you mix it? Do you mix it on the surface of the miniature you're putting on? GWC, that's gold. That's completely gold. Delta's Kiddo's Corner. All right, kids, first go ask your mom for a big old chunk of lead. You know, I had to ask my partner the other day, do we have a metal saw around here to saw open a lead ingot like we were talking about, which is currently too large. So the second thing is, yes, get a metal saw in order to saw. Yeah, okay, all right, baby powder. All right, I'll be right back. Get the other stuff. I was not set up for this work. I was set up for painting. Good call. Mix a small piece of scrap, then dab on with a toothpick or something. Okay, so I'm pouring some talcum powder here in this cup. This is great. Get an index card. Getting my cotton swabs here. William, you're joking, but I have actually considered that kind of stuff. I was taking bits of flash off the miniatures to prep them the other day. And no, I actually was considering throwing them back in the ladle. What I did wind up doing with these little bits and bobs is I took Paul's advice of throw them into your paint containers as agitators. So so that's a new little trick to me. Man, I am with your help, I'm rapidly accelerating my painting creation technology here, which is great. Let's see if this works. Maybe I should do this. Interesting. Hopefully this is what you meant. Which one did I... Is this the one I filed down? This is the one I filed down. Clearly have to put a little pressure on that. Interesting. Yeah, the metal to plastic connection is not completely ideal. You could probably prefer to have like to like. File down this guy. Vino Azul, thanks for saying that. Book of War unit stats for aliens. Pull that out as a surprise on your next opponent. You know, as you may know, I'm currently reading Peter Perla's The Art of Wargaming very slowly as I do, and I think I'm like chapter 3 or 4 or something like this at this point. And he made an interesting point that, of course, to a large degree, he's talking about actual wargaming. There's the hobby wargaming and there's professional wargaming, which is actually like Department of Defense type stuff. And you know, a lot of people that used to do hobby wargaming, like the very famous Jim Dunnigan, you know, are full-time professional defense consultants now. And he made the point that the point, from his perspective, the point of a war game is to generate discussion between the opponents and the creators of the game, but like how can we analyze, how can we assess stuff in the world, and the play of the game is always going to feed back into how can we modify the game, like in a perpetual state of evolution. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings. I had mixed feelings when I read that. That's an interesting take, but I'm like, it's an interesting perspective that your war game design is never really done, because at some point you got to, you know, at least in the hobby, you've got to publish something. Yeah, good point. Me using the paper to mix the glue and powder wasn't the best thing. It is practically a Thark. That's a good point. That's a good point. You know, not having ever read John Carter back in the day when I was playing Star Frontiers, that never occurred to me. I wonder how much of an inspiration that really was. Obviously, the people that created D&D were like huge John Carter fans. What can I use that's not paper? Well, I'm gonna, you know what, for tonight, I'm actually just gonna mix it on the base itself. I just have one more to do. Well, one more of these to do, I should say. All right, that is not super elegant, but I'll be better prepped some other time. Okay, that's clearly making a better connection, actually, so that's good advice. Hopefully I can clean that up later. The gluey, powdery stuff is a little bit visible. Hopefully we can clean that up. Okay, so that's the Yazirians on their bases. So hopefully that'll help in play. Couple different iterations on how to glue the metal to the plastic there. So I got no powder, I got a little powder, I got a whole bunch of powder in there. We'll see whether one of them is more durable going forward. It's always an experiment. Now that's actually not the only thing I wanted to do, because in addition to these guys, I also have I've been working on these. I wanted the player characters to be kind of high fidelity. So in addition to these guys, I also bought just some cheap like animal miniatures and army men for like all the other stuff. So when they're fighting NPCs or monsters, I just grab some like farm animal type stuff. And you know, so could possibly use that. I got a pack of like alligators for like random reptilian type monsters that I can throw down there. It's about, you know, about the right size for large stuff. And then I also have, you know, a pack or two of these standard army men for regular people with guns type thing. And as you can see, these guys are really narrow and they're falling over all the time on the table. So I'm going to put these guys on bases. I also got a bag of like cheap little robots like this, and they are fated to fall over most of the time. You can see that. Now those guys I'm not going to bother putting on bases because since I got that, I actually got the official Star Frontiers robot set, which are larger and better based. So I don't actually need to use these guys anymore. I suppose I should show them, right? Well, William, this is a whole story. This right here is a whole story we might get into later. Robot guys out of here because I don't need you anymore. Just get these guys on the side. Clean this up a little bit. I should actually, you know what? I should actually show off the official Star Frontiers robots. I think I mentioned this on the stream a week ago, but apparently I'm gonna be going back and forth the other room all night. Okay, so I think I got this in the mail, I don't know, maybe about a week ago. So this is the official Star Frontiers robots set. It's about half the size of the box sets for the player characters. Player character set, you get about 12, I think, in there. This is half size this. This is copyright 1984 here is what you got. So I think 2 years after Star Frontiers was released, in the kind of the second wave of stuff. So you get 6 in this set. And the funny thing is, this set, if you try to get this second hand, it tends to, like, I'm constantly looking for it. And generally it's way more expensive than what I want to pay for it. So for quite a while I thought I'd never be able to get these. And then I finally saw, I think it was on eBay, I saw a set for about half as much. For what it normally goes for. I'm like, why is this being sold for half as much? Because the box is all solid. And the reason is that they removed the shrink wrap, they actually used the miniatures, and the guy already painted them. So, to me, counterintuitively, the fact that they'd been used and were painted reduces the value. But to me, you're saving me a couple hours of painting time. So personally, for me, it was like win-win. And, you know, maybe not, you know, Rembrandt level painting, but serviceable. I'd be, you know, I have no problem using these on my table. And that's your official Star Frontiers robot set. There's what you got. Just throw the Yazirians out there for size. Right, so you know about the same size as one of our Yazirians. Right, there's one of our Vrusk there. So you know about the right scale for that. Right? For me, win-win. Tanner cast, right? I was like, wait, what? Like normal, and of course I'm accustomed to. If you go and get like currently produced miniatures pre-painted, well, obviously there's a premium for that. So I was like, what? But yeah, for I guess classic stuff, it's not collectible anymore. It's not in shrink wrap. So perfectly fine for me. So I don't know if I need to duplicate these. I don't need to have like legions of robots in my game. I don't think there's any reason why I can't put these in a mold and make duplicates if I need to someday, and then clean it up carefully. If I really wanted to, I could repaint one of them. But yeah, I'm super happy to have this. So at this point, I actually have all of the box sets of miniatures that they made for Star Frontiers, with one single exception. And the funny thing is, back in the day, it was one that I, as a kid, I saw in the store, and I was really attracted to. I think it's like the spaceship privateers, like kind of the custom spaceships that you make yourself. And that's the last thing I have to add to my collection. And again, since it's, but they didn't make as many of them, that tends to be a little bit more expensive. I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to afford it, but maybe. Now that I'm all the box sets, N-1, it probably gives me some additional impetus to collect them all. You know what I mean? Anyway, so happy to have these. My players have already had a fight with a robot as like part of their initial training session, and they were like, "That was really tough." The robots in Star Frontiers are like range from like super tough to mega tough. So super happy to get that. There. Anyway, so what I'm doing right now is putting bases on my army soldiers that I use for miscellaneous people shooting at you. I feel like, where did I put all of them back in that box? Is that what I did? Anyway, I probably have more here than I really need in a game, but I grabbed a fistful and threw it in my travel box just to cover my bases. Now I'm covering my bases literally with the actual miniatures. Yeah, I like the robots, right? I was like, do I really need this? But yeah, they're kind of neat. I like the fact that some of them walk, some of them have caterpillar tracks, and one of them has hover like wind underneath it, which was, I thought, kind of clever. Okay, now I'm hoping that putting plastic on plastic is going to be, yeah, that is clearly much tackier right off the bat. Not perfect, but I think it's better. I think technically, I think it's advised that I hold it down for like 60 seconds, I think is the advice. Probably not going to be quite that patient. Yeah, I was just thinking that, William. There's a tiny little bit of plastic flash, I guess you'd call it, on the bottom. Actually, we'll do that. I really have more of these in the box than I need, but as I dig more into the Star Frontiers rules and the whole Volturnus campaign, I do run into a couple more details that maybe we need to house rule modify. One of the things is that for the Volturnus campaign, the monsters generally come, like the creatures come in like original D&D sized numbers. So you frequently have some kind of like perilous carnivorous bird or horse or something like that come in like hundreds. Like 1 to 100 are going to show up. Or 7 to 70. And I'm like, that's a lot. And they're all pretty tough generally. So I'm like, that might be... I don't know. I don't know if that was thought through entirely. Yeah, that's quite a bit of flashing there on this one. Yeah, that was going to be trouble there. Interesting. The carbon dioxide moisture from your breath will help it set. And there's a couple other little wonky things that I noticed that we might talk about a little bit later tonight. So I want to base these guys. I want to paint my Vrusk, and then if time permitting, there's something else I'd also like to do tonight. I don't know if we'll get to it or not. Oh, that makes a big difference actually. I think that's immediately stable as soon as I do that. Good thinking there, William. Smooth out the bottom of a model. So as usual, I got my windows open here. Here in New York, I don't know where you are, the weather's been like really volatile the last couple of days. It's been like hot in the day and then cold at night. It's still not very warm. It's weird. I think at some point, like in February, there were a couple of days where I was out in my shorts, and not since then. So I think it was in the 70s, and then in the nights here, it's getting down in the 40s still. So I do have my window open still. Currently 68 degrees here in my room with a humidity of 38%, which is drier than normal. CO2 level in the room currently 678 parts per million, which is low. "26 degrees last night. Holy smoke. Wow. That's surprisingly cool. Confusing the heck out of the chickens. How many do you have? Do you have a whole bunch of them or just a couple? 12. That's a good number. You get a dozen eggs every time they lay. Perfect. Very smart. You know, with the eclipse a couple weeks ago now, I was talking to my dad, and he was telling me that, I hope I didn't already tell the story on the stream. So he's telling me, he was remembering like sometime around 1960 or so, maybe 62 or something. He said he was out, so we had a farm, so he was out haying one summer with his dad and his brothers, and all of a sudden it started getting really dark. And he said at the time, the news wasn't as available about those kinds of things, and they had no idea that a total solar eclipse was coming. So they were out in a field just working, and all of a sudden my grandfather looked up and said, "Shit! Apparently it's a solar eclipse," and the sun totally got blocked off, and all of the birds roosted, and all the chickens that they had went into the roost and roosted. The cattle that are normally down the field days just started wandering back up into the barn where they spend the nights, and the dogs all started going crazy about like, why aren't the people going in? You know, and it lasts a couple minutes, and then then it gets bright, and out come the chickens, and out come the cows back down, the birds start flying around, the dogs come back out. And nobody they had no awareness that was coming that day. Different times. It's funny, right? It's a funny historical moment whereby, like, you know, they're aware enough to know what an eclipse is immediately, but didn't have it on their schedule to know that one was happening right then. I guess as I do this, I'm going to be discovering how many army guys I had in my box. At least in my travel box. I have a much larger batch here in the house. Just heal here. I like that these guys have some variety, right? You have some of these guys, and obviously they're World War I or World War II type thing. Close enough, whatever. But some have rifles, some have pistols, some have grenades, all of which are, you know, legitimate things in Star Frontiers. So they get pretty close to the job for, like, I don't know, $1.50 or whatever I paid for them. Okay, now I am right on the cusp of getting my fingers glued together. Damn it. I got 4 more bases here. I think I'm going to call that good enough. Oh, interesting. Does that really go? World War One helmets go with a Rebel Alliance color scheme? Really? Now, for me, today I am so not a speed painter. That would be such a different thing for me. Like I mean, frankly, this was the thing that I was wrestling with this week. Of like, I am unable to do anything really fast. Apparently. Anytime I super glue stuff, I think back there was a time where my partner Isabelle was doing an art project here in New York. What was it called? Like the Great Apple, the Big Apple something art exhibit, and they had these big, like, I don't know, 5 foot diameter apples to decorate, and everybody else doing it would paint them. And what Isabelle did is she crafted a bunch of stuff that she was going to attach to make it 3D bas relief. And she went through, I don't know, like 40 like 40 tubes of super glue. And so she's super gluing, and then I have to run to a store and get more super glue. And basically all day long I just sat there and ran for more super glue and handed it to her. So I remember that every time I do any of this stuff. Okay. All right, I'm going to call that good enough. I'm going to get there for 8, 12, 16, 8. Well, okay. 2 more will make it 20. This is the kind of thing that always slows me down, is my numerology. Okay, am I out of glue, or is that just sealing up? Speaking of which, okay, I think I'm pretty close to running out here is the issue. Yeah, exactly right. I had to get over my I had to get over a little bit of embarrassment of like running into a store and be like, "Give me all of your super glue." or more like, "I need all of your glue right now, all of it." That's a good look, right? All the glue. Okay, I actually do need all the glue. Oh man, this is going to really irritate me if I have 19. This is really going to piss me off to an unreasonable degree. Yeah, that's actually, oh, a little bit more. Okay, if I squeeze really tight, hopefully I can get my fingers stuck. Okay, I think that's 20. Yeah. I got four deep and 5 across. I think that's 20. All right. I'm going to make a note to buy more glue. All right, okay, so that's, I wanted to do that. Put these guys, I think that's pretty good. I think reasonable, that's enough opponents for my 4 or 5 player characters. Exactly this, Vino Agile. Exactly this. We say that a lot around this house, or one of the other iterations. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside. These guys can dry. Maybe up here. All right, now let me break out the paints. Clean some of this stuff up. I think my Usarians have it's a pretty good improvement there. These guys and these guys. Water. All right, now the very first thing I want to do is, for those of you, this is a deep cut on the stream, is one of my spaceship miniatures with the bases broke off at one point. So if you go back maybe, I don't know, 8 weeks or so, we cast a replacement from my 10-year-old, 12-year-old mold. So as you can see here, I've primed my stuff in gray, and all the bases and stuff to the spaceships are black to try to kind of disappear or blend in if I have a black tabletop. So the very first thing is just paint this sucker black. Where are the paints? Well, Jerry, it's a good question. Where why am I using the World War II stuff? It's just the cheapest thing I could find with guns. Frankly, it was either that or cowboys and Indians, and that's even a little bit more questionable these days. So that one we're using a little bit of imagination when I describe what they're actually confronting. All right, so just going to paint this guy black to begin with. So I did, as I said earlier, I did take Paul's advice, Wandering DM Paul's advice, put a little bit of flash metal in these containers as an agitator. It's so small I'm not feeling it, but we shall see. Once upon a time, I had black primer. I don't have it at the moment, and I wasn't going to buy any just for this one little thing. So, okay. So I'll just push that off to the side for now. At some point, I want to paint the bottom side, but that'll be later. Okay, so now the thing we're really trying to get to was painting our rather more specific Vrusk insect aliens for Star Frontiers. So even though they're really complicated miniatures, I think they're actually going to be fairly easy to paint, as a matter of fact. Because they're supposed to be basically green all over. They don't have like differently colored hair or anything like that. With highlights on their joints, which are canonically supposed to be like greenish yellow. So I think that basically just painting them green, and then if I can, dry brushing like the yellow in the right places makes sense. The one complication is that for the other stuff, I have been distinguishing the different characters. Like you can see with my Yazirians, I duplicated 3 of the same type, and what I was doing is I was distinguishing them in their equipment. So their tunics I made red, blue, and green. Okay, so if I have up to 3 Yazirians on the board, we can tell the difference between them. Made the guns all silver there. But with these Vrusk miniatures, they're not carrying any equipment. They don't have any tunics. They don't have any bandoliers like the Dralocytes. They don't have any packs. They are carrying one single gun in their left hand. But other than that, as far as I can tell, they're entirely just au naturel. So I don't have the option to color different gear. So what I'm thinking is that just as a distinguishing feature, I'm going to dry brush the joints slightly different shades. So I'll make one yellow, which is canonical, and then I'll tint one red, and I'll tint another one blue, is what I'm thinking, on top of the green. So I don't know if you have a better idea about what to do. I think the gun is too small to really stand out. So I'm just going to make that silver on all of them. And I feel like that's like the best thing I can do. Jerry, I'm just seeing my army guys are reporting giant flying monkeys. Well, that's right. I could write. Good point, William. Now that I have them on bases, I could paint the bases different colors. Good point. But with the Vrusk, I don't have that option. They wouldn't even fit on bases of this size, actually. So right, I'm really happy with how these came out. These are neat miniatures. I was really giving myself about 50-50 whether I was going to get the cast to work at all. Like I say, it took us 4 hours last week, but we finally got them to work. So success. That's the most complicated thing I'm ever going to cast. I'm gonna plant the flag down. That was as complicated as I could possibly make. Did make it in 2 parts. Had to clean some stuff up. I did have some bubbles around the feet where the copious air vents were. I will say that I could have made the mold a little bit better, actually. So having learned some stuff, if I went in, knew that I was going to have to vent everything in sight, I would have made the air vents going up to the sides in every case, and that would have saved a little bit of trouble, I think, last week. So my OCD brain had a very small, like, let's remake the mold for this to improve on the venting casting process. And then I was like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Okay, so for coloration on this, yeah, so William, three shades of yellow. One more brownish, one more greenish. Interesting. Three shades of base yellow. I think that interesting about the eye color. Now, one of the things I hope I can. Let's see if I can get this on the camera. I don't think I can. Okay, so I'm told the best thing to do is be far away but zoom all the way in. Can I get this? Yes, I can. Okay, see how the miniature has like stippling in the eyes, right? They have a whole bunch of facets in the eyes, and I was able to get that in my duplicated cast. And when I saw that, I was like really happy that I could get that detail with the little ping pong dots in the eyes. So if I could, I would like to like paint the eyes one color and then dry brush those to try to bring that out. I don't know if that's within my painting capacity, but I was really happy that I got that level of detail on the cast. So I'm thinking maybe, maybe make the eyes black and then dry brush them white to bring out that detail, maybe is what I'm thinking. Make it like really obvious contrast there. Yeah, I think right the joint. I think that the dry brushing the joints is my best thing to make it really highly visible to distinguish the different individuals. Get this out of here. All right. So I think these won't be too bad to paint, but I'm gonna try to get the eyes right. So the gun, the little bulby gun in the left hand. I'm going to make silver. I think will look good against the green. I guess I'm going to do that first. I guess I don't know if that's crazy, but I got their kind of triple fingers around the outside on top. So I'll if I make the gun silver first, I think that makes sense. Let me do that. So I have gunmetal, gray, and I also have silver. I think for the science fiction stuff, it looks better in silver. Actually, my little, I don't know if you can hear the agitator in here. Thank you, Wandering DM Paul, for that tip. Okay, so these guns are real small. Oh, interesting. Do the Vrusk have tattoos or body modifications? Maybe freehand some designs on the abdomen. Interesting. That's not part of the canon. That's a good idea to try. Not sure I want to go through that much trouble, Frank. But geez, that is a good idea. Sunscreen. I think I have this super zoomed in at the moment, don't I? It's funny, the original set that I get these out of, right, you have one of each player character race. You got two humans for the two different genders. And then you have another one of each in a spacesuit. And I think I can see why initially they thought that might be useful, but I don't think a whole lot of the adventures take place in spacesuits. So I'm not planning on recreating all of those. But it would certainly give you better options for decoration choices. William, thanks so much for checking in. Good hearing from you tonight. Have a good weekend. I suppose I should observe that the Wandering Gems, we were off this past Sunday for a normal D&D chat show because Paul was traveling to Rising Phoenix Con in Massachusetts to run some games. We'll be back this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, like we normally are, is the plan. Not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about yet. We were chatting about that today. Might possibly talk about what Paul was doing at Rising Phoenix. Okay, so there's that easy part with the guns, and now the majority of the Vrusk body I'm going to make in this paint set that I have. There is don't dump that on the floor. So I have dark green, and I also have goblin green, or in the original Spanish, verde oscuro and verde goblin. So I think this actually works to use the goblin green, actually. Right, so the dark green, I think, is for like foliage and trees and stuff. And the goblin green is more for something organic, I think. Looks, if it's a little bit on the unsettling side, I think that's fine. I don't mind that. Oh, so Jerry, talking about the tattoo type stuff, not a crazy idea when you consider how corporate the Vrusk are. I doubt they would put anything artistic on their bodies, but they may find space for a corporate logo somewhere. Both are legitimate. I think the book does say, as you know, their whole culture is around like what corporation are you part of, but it actually does say that Vrusk specifically, in their spare time seek artistic pursuits and fine goods and stuff like that. So actually, either way would actually be reasonable. Critical information about which mandibles get used for what. Critical info. The miniatures aren't always perfectly canonical, and like I have frequently observed in the past, if you have an illustration that falls out of sync with the text, people remember the illustration, even if the rules designers say that the text is really the official source. You know what? They actually did get. Let me try this again. But in this particular case, they did actually get the 4 mandibles in there. Right? You get the 2 big ones up on top, and then you get the 2 smaller ones down the bottom, right? They actually the sculptor actually did follow that description. So good on them. One thing I was thinking about today is, to my knowledge, these miniature sets back in the day, they didn't have any credits for the sculptors. And if I had my druthers, I would love to know who exactly sculpted these and if they're still available, interview them about what the process was. Because the more I dig into it, I'm thinking like, how did these things get cast? How did you sculpt these? How on earth did you sculpt these details with the mandibles and the eyes? Circa 1982. Seems like I don't even know like what tools somebody would use to succeed at that, frankly. So, and probably some other kind of interesting inside baseballs. But I don't know any way I can find out who did that initially. Yeah, right. So good catch on what the book says about the joints there, Vino Azel. It does say they go from blue with orange joints to dull green with yellow joints as they age. But yeah, so I'm not going to try to distinguish, tones of green. Actually, the orange is not bad. I guess I could do yellow, orange. I guess I was going to try to do blue actually. I don't know. I'd like red. I think would pop. I think red would be more distinguishable. We'll see. I'm gonna try this. I'll get one with yellow joints, which should look fine, and we'll see whether the other ones are okay or not. The tattoos are great ideas. They're great ideas. Yeah, I don't know if I have it in my capacity to succeed at that right here, and I'm also not sure whether that's going to be like describable at the table. Like I'm not sure. I don't know if one was tattooed and the other weren't, then that might be a thing. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to distinguish between the types of the tattoos. Yeah, I think that was my plan. I'm going to make one yellow joints, one red, one blue. We'll see. Anyway, but first of all, I'm going to make them all. I got to slather them with green. Hopefully not too much. I do feel like I lost some of the detail on my Yazirians, so I'm going to try to not make this quite as thick as last time. Okay, so there's the goblin green color. Kind of looks like green slime from a Nickelodeon show. Don't have to be too careful here. And I should be, if I was smart, I'd do the underside first, is what I would do. You can see that divot in the original miniature to save on metal, which just happens to have the copyright notice. Painty. So for what it's worth, just looking at my air monitor here, the what is that? The TV, the total volatile organic compound. I think it's picking up the paints actually, because it's gone up from 0.001 milligrams per cubic meter, I guess is what it was, up to 0.016, which is totally still in the green zone easily. But since I started painting that ticked up. I've started to become maniacally observant of air quality in the last couple months since I got this monitor. I tend to have my windows open a lot, even if it's like kind of too cold, because I found it makes a huge difference. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll keep the idea of like maybe one of them heavily tattooed as a mark. I love the idea. The only thing I've ever done to that level of detail was I had a clay golem miniature that I put the rune on its head. Just once. It's kind of ironic how like hard it was to cast these guys and how relatively easy it is to paint them. Thankfully. That guy. They did, right, David? Thanks for checking in there. Yeah, like it took a marathon session last week, but we did finally get them to cast with viewer assistance. Probably wasn't going to do that on my own, but we finally got it. It was a crazy by the end of it. The molds were like this crazy dangerous mess, but we managed to get it to work. So Jerry, do I have to calibrate my air quality monitor to NYC Air so it knows what to consider to be normal? That's not part of the monitor. That's an interesting question. I don't have the most expensive one in the world. For what it's worth, I actually have to recalibrate it every single morning. And it just has like, it has, there's a numerical reading, and then it also has green, yellow, red, warning lights on it. That are just like what's good for people. So for what it's worth, every morning I put it out on my fire escape for about 10 minutes just to calibrate to outside air, and it always detects that as minimal level compared to inside. The difference between closed room when I'm sleeping, which immediately pings up in a red no matter what, versus have a door open to the rest of the apartment, at which point it's going to be yellow, versus have the windows open, at which point it's going to be green, is really remarkable. So to make a long story short, that's what always happens. Those are my three options basically. I'm for what it's worth. I'm in Brooklyn. I'm pretty close to the beach. I can see the water from a couple some number of blocks away from my roof, for what it's worth. But on the other hand, 2 blocks away, I've got a 4-lane, 6-lane highway. Should probably not put that over there. I should put it over here. Oh, David, how dangerous did the molds end up? Yeah, so every single one of these legs, I had to give air vents to get the air out, and I've never had to do, and normally like a little bit of an air vent in the mold suffices, but at I can't remember who it was, but at someone's urging, they said you're going to have to vent that all the way outside the mold. So for the first time, I had vents actually running to the edge outside the mold to push the air out. And then I was topographically constrained so that with the 8, I had to have most of them venting out the sides. And as a result, when I finally get it to work, you pour metal in, and I have metal pouring out both sides. So there's a puddle of metal on top. It's pouring out both sides, all over the place, and I was willing to do it to get the cast properly done, and then I also had to like tap it and slosh it around to get in all the little joints. But yeah, I had to be careful about it. It pretty much ejects metal in all directions by the time we were done, and that's what it took. So don't try that at home, kids. And that's the thing. If I planned it better, and I knew I was going to have to do that, I would have more carefully had the air vents going up in every case. The problem is I started making air vents the way I normally do, had them either horizontal or possibly down, and then that when I connected them to the outside, that caused the metal to pour outside. If I'd pre-planned it better, I would have had all 8 air vents leading up to the edges systematically, and that might have prevented the metal from pouring outside. And that's the thing I kind of partly want to retry. But I'd never had to vent stuff to the outside of the mold before, so I got started the way I normally do it, and then was stuck after that. I kind of want all. I wish that all my miniatures were like this. They just like need one single flat color. I'd be like, great. Now I like painting. All right. So next thing I should do is I should get in on the hand that's carrying the gun and get the fingers painted, I guess. Interesting, Jerry, about the air quality in New York City. As far as I can tell with this monitor, as long as if I have the windows open here, it's pretty good. I do get it in the green level by default if my windows are open. Basically, that's the whole ball game. Is do you have ventilation of air coming in and out? I did get a suggestion at one point of have plants, and I looked up a research paper a couple of years back that said if you're going to have plants clear your air from human being carbon monoxide. You need like 1,000 plants per like square yard or some insane thing. But open my window and all of a sudden it's all good. Where's my teeny tiny little brush? They're not wearing anything on the casting, Lorsudo. So I am planning on leaving them naked. Apparently, is the cultural idiom, I guess. I think all the illustrations in the game show them with san garments. So I think that's canon. They don't have anything. There, you know, in the later box set, there's a couple of variations where they have a little pack on their back, but they still don't have any garments at that point. Yeah. It's interesting that most of the aliens apparently mostly don't wear clothes, right? Human, you know, Lorsudo, wearing clothes is a very human thing. So don't bring your cultural expectations onto our Vrusk friends. Yeah, belts or backpacks are sometimes in illustrations, but not like, you know, pants or shirts or anything like that. You are correct. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the fingers here. Here's a finger. Okay, now how many fingers do these guys have anyway? 1, 2, 3. Okay, they have 5. I guess I was saying 3 already, but it looks like they have 5. Great. I need this paint thicker. There's another alien race in the campaign that's everything's 3. 3 legs, 3 eyes, 3 arms, 3 fingers. But not these guys. And they made miniatures for those guys too. But they weren't intended as player characters, so they sold those one at a time. I do have a nudist calling in my hands, literally, and a lot of hands at that. Really, does it say really that where does it says Vrusk are normally suited? Weird. Spacesuits, yeah. Do I have that? You know, just for what it's worth, just grab the space-suited version. So in the original box set here, here's the version that's meant to be in a spacesuit, right? So you get all this kind of jointed stuff on the legs, and helmet there. So that would obviously give you a lot more options for how you paint it, yeah. You know, maybe, I don't know. Now I was about to say, maybe someday I'll duplicate this, but I'm like, I really don't want to. Except that I kind of do want to. Okay. As a side note, you know, at some point, they have those, okay, they have these mismarked, don't they? It's interesting. Okay, so at some point, right, I kind of want to make, at some point I should really duplicate miniatures for the bad guys, right, the wormy Sathar, and, right, and so obviously the guy on the right is your au natural Sathar, and the guy on the left is your evil Sathar in spacesuit, but they have them mislabeled on the box. And in fact, they also have them mispainted, I guess, I think, unless the colors aren't what I expect. Are Sathar normally yellow? I guess maybe they're normally yellow. Anyway, okay, so for what it's worth on the box, it says this is the Sathar in spacesuit, and this one here is Sathar with weapon. And that's obviously incorrect. So this would be the one that I'd duplicate someday. Before I do that, I think I should probably have some official humans. So probably when we come back next week, I might start on making molds to duplicate some of the humans. And then the question is, do I do the male one first or the female one first? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so I'm just still doing the fingers here. Vino Azul, your question about were the Star Frontiers one of the few lines of miniatures that TSR did themselves? I guess that's a good point. They're definitely, the boxes are definitely TSR branded. There's no Grenadier branding on any of these. I'll just kind of look at it here. So you get TSR here. I think you might be right. I think that. So you have, for what it's worth, you have the here's what you have in the line, right? So you've got the AD&D metal miniatures, and you have the Star Frontier metal miniatures, and so it's possibly these were just the ones that they made in-house at TSR. Maybe, perhaps, is what they're saying there. Because obviously the Grenadiers ones, they had a much larger line, I think. And I think they would have these blister packs that for D&D, it was like Classics miniatures. And for Star Frontiers, it was Star Frontiers miniatures. And I think those were the only two that they were selling as TSR blister packs, at least, from what I was recently looking at. So yeah, this as far as I can tell, this was in-house TSR stuff. Yeah, great question. And boy, I wish I knew who the sculptors were. But that was just not. Do miniatures lines nowadays communicate who the sculptors were? I don't even know. Interesting. Apparently I gotta look at my illustrations more closely. I'm gonna briefly just check through my book here. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, that's a sort of a spacesuit there. It may be there. Interesting, good point. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they usually have something on them. This miniature doesn't show any sign of that as far as I can tell. Yep. That one's sort of got full body coveralls, sort of, actually. Interesting. That's a great observation. I didn't even track that. This guy I don't see anything on. Good point. But the way that these guys have, this guy's dry. The way they have all this detail on the chest area. I can get that in focus, camera. Focus. So the way they have all this detail in the chest area looks to me like that's their actual organism, right? That doesn't look like a garment. And for what it's worth, the illustrations that we're looking at that have them in a tunic or a vest or something like that don't have that kind of detail in their chest. So I think that's their real open torso, I think. Well, you know, like it's Barbie, I think, Barbie-ish. I might not even know where the business end is, frankly. Is that where the sex organs are? Didn't even know that. Learn something new every day. Really? I would have thought it would be on the backside. Seeing some little spots that I missed. Okay. 5 fingers. One. Two. 3, 4, 5, pretty good. Pretty good. Not my worst work. I think that's pretty good. Oh, Vino Azul, thanks for looking that up, actually. TSR produced their own line of miniatures for just 2 years. Yep. Interesting. In 1985, they discontinued it, licensed it to Citadel Games Workshop. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, when I look at like the inserts with like, you know, get our whole line, it kind of struck me how thin it was. And I was totally wondering like why are there so few things listed here? So that makes sense that they were only producing their own for a very short time. Yeah, sure, right. You'd think that they subcontracted them, right? Is what you'd expect. Yeah, I'd love to know. Yeah, interesting. There's one leg here that I cracked when I was taking the flashing off undelicately. Gotta be careful about that. All right, 5 fingers. 1, 2, 3. I think I get that. 4. 5. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, I like that. Should I zoom in more? Yeah, okay. Pretty good for my purposes. Cool. I get the feeling that TSR might have been a mess the whole time. Very. I sometimes I get the feeling that there was a company that had caught lightning in a bottle, weren't genius business runners, and just like it exploded despite their best efforts to a certain extent. And wouldn't be the only company like that. Which in my amateur opinion, I might suggest that there's a lot of businesses. There's some businesses that are really successful just by the nature of the thing, despite what the executive decision-making process is, and it tricks the people at the top into thinking that they're making great decisions when it doesn't really matter what they're doing. Tell us the dirt that you're finding. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch to. Actually, I should check to see the first one. I might have missed some spots. This one I didn't check very carefully. All right, so. Yeah, amazing how much work they put into Star Frontiers only to chuck it. It kind of hurts a little bit. I mean, you know, I guess as you've gotten to see more of these product lines, I guess most product lines, that tends to be what happens. I mean, you get a release. You know, I guess nowadays they're even more aware that it's the core books that really make the money. So you get a release and you get a couple of support products usually. And you know, if it's not D&D, that tends to be how a lot of game lines go. TSR upper management hired some experts to get the miniatures going, and then didn't listen to them and got cheap lead alloy that was soft and tended to corrode. And I hear that a lot. I guess I've been fortunate with the 40-year-old miniatures that I've been getting. I haven't been a victim of that. A lot of people say that you open up some of these old box sets and they're mostly corroded away. And I've gotten lucky that I haven't run into that. Might be the quality of the foam that they're using in conjunction with that. Might have had different quality in different production runs. But I've heard that it's a big problem, and I've been fortunate not to run into this corroding lead alloy problem. And then TSR laid off a large amount of staff in 1982 because there was little to do at that point. Yep. Interesting. The casting experts at TSR hired were the Neckermans of Valiant Enterprises. Valiant is still in existence this day, casting miniatures in both metal and resin for many makers. Fascinating. Oh, this is great. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if we could ping them and ask, like, does anybody there know? That's great stuff. Thanks for looking that up. Fascinating. And there's a big difference between the 1983 box set and the 1984 box set, right? The sculpting's clearly very different. The scaling's totally different. Okay, now we're getting towards 11, which is usually when I knock off. I at least want to do the dry brushing for at least one of these, because like I say, I do have a Vrusk player character in my party, so I want at least one of these available. Is this good for dry brushing? Right. I haven't done this in a long time, so I might screw this up massively. Or should I do the eyes first? You know what I had to do? I had to paint. Okay, so if my plan was paint the eyes black and then some white dry brushing, I should get the black in there first is what I had to do. Let's see if I can do that. Is this black paint still okay? Kind of. That might be too thick. What can I do to get that in focus better? Sorry, I'm trying to make that more visible there. Okay. pointed at me. All right, I think it's in the right direction at least. Okay. Let me do that for all these guys as long as I have my black paint out. They hired Brian Bloom's nephew. Yep, that's about right. Now that's humor not everybody would get. Okay. Number 3. No, I didn't get very good coverage with the green there on the underside. We can fix that. Reasonable. Reasonable. Gotta fix the coverage down there. Interesting. Valiant Enterprises has a TSR page with a bunch of cool photos from back in the day. Interesting. They have a cool Grell prototype. Oh. Oh. I gotta check that stuff out. Great research there. All right, so yeah, so I'm gonna have at least one here. I'm gonna dry brush some yellow highlights in. So I have sun yellow. I got sun yellow. I got orange fire. I got bronze flesh tone. But I think what does work pretty well here is sun yellow to contrast with the green. I think is a good idea. I think that Grell is the goofy rubber. They made a rubber Grell toy? Really? Amazing. Huh. I kind of, I keep meaning to use a Grell in one of my games and I never have. Obviously the Fiend Folio monster book has just this great full page illustration of a fight with one. Really terrifying by what, Nicholson? Is that Nichols? Is that who I'm thinking of? Who did all that super scary stuff in the UK Fiend Folio? All right, does Dan remember how to dry brush? All right, so getting a little yellow on the brush and then mostly taking it off again. All right, let's see how this goes. So I'm being pretty subtle here to begin with before I make a mistake and slather it on. Backside here. Well, I kind of like how that looks. I don't know if this is going to be enough to be distinguishable from the other three, but it's a little subtle. You know, actually having it on camera here is actually a pretty good test for like how visible is that. I guess maybe I'm going to make that a little bit more. I'd if I didn't have to make them distinguishable, I'd probably leave it about like that, but I'm going to maybe make it a little bit more obvious. Are you going to be doing dry brush, glazing, highlighting, and airbrushing? Probably not. Probably beyond my capacity. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to kick that up a little bit more. It's interesting. To me here, it's a little bit more obvious. The camera is a good test for how visible that is. The camera takes 20% of the hue away. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit more. That's interesting. Okay, to me, that's like super yellow. Fascinating. Yeah, okay, so I think you can see that there. Interesting. Interesting. Still looks interesting. Still looks pretty subtle on camera, but here live, it's like really, it's like that foot there is like super yellow there. Whoops. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. These, you know what? These guys are actually kind of fun to paint. But partly the fact that they don't have garments on is like, oh, this I can do. Yeah, cool. Thank you. I like that. It does look a lot brighter in person. You can kind of see that there. Let me do one. Give him some. I'm going to give another guy. Actually, that you can kind of see what that's like. I'm going to give another guy some red highlights, and then we'll compare and see if it's obvious. You can tell one from the other. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've done worse. You know what? Actually, if the mandibles were brighter, I wouldn't mind that. That's still pretty subtle. I want that to be a little bitey, threatening. I don't mind that. Cool. I'm very aware of that, Vino Azel. Thank you for the reminder. Remember everybody, the big ones on top are for eating, and the little ones on the bottom are for ripping things apart. It's totally canon. But which ones are for kissing? I didn't tell you that. Okay, corrections incoming. This is that's good. All right, so I'm gonna tint one up kind of ready, and we'll see if my players will be able to tell the difference at the table. Hopefully. So again, the book does say that younger Vrusk come out with their joints orangey. Gonna make it red to try to tell the difference from the yellow one. So I have okay. I have bloody red. That seems to be the ticket. I love the fact that this set has, I mean, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 16, right? And I have separate, I've got dead white, and I also have bone white. Has two separate colors. See you later, Jerry. Thanks so much for checking in. Red and green might be Xmas clashy. You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. I have orange fire. Okay, so I have okay, actually I'll just throw it on. So I have bloody red, and I also have orange fire. What do you think? I fear that the orange might be too close to the yellow. Is that which one is which here? Here's the yellow. Yeah, the two whites are for zombies versus skeletons. Yep, exactly. Yeah, this is reasonable. You know what? I'm going to go whole hog here. I'm going to dry brush one guy red, and if that doesn't work out, I'll just redo the whole thing. Christmas Vrusk. All right, let's try this. So again, I'm gonna start off conservative again. Okay, that pops pretty hard. We'll see. I'm just going to do the whole thing, and then we'll see what the effect is like. That's pretty. I don't know. I feel like no. I feel like no. That doesn't. I don't know. The yellow looks that doesn't look natural. Yeah. I don't think so. I'm going to back off from that. So maybe the orange would have been the better choice. Yeah, but right. It looks like horror movie Rust to me, is what it looks like. Players go to the North Pole. They find a factory filled with Rust making lead toys to poison kids. Yeah, that looks like horror movie Rust. That's a little bit too much. I'm gonna back. Okay, I'm gonna redo him. Now the other guy, my thought was blue. Now I don't know. I mean, so the yellow looks reasonable. I was gonna try blue highlights. I don't know if I do any. I mean, I got brown, I got bronze, I got bronze flesh tone. That's going to be super subtle. Blue. I mean, if it was yellow, orange, and brown. Maybe that would be okay. Boy, okay, see now I am wishing that he had some kind of clothes or pack or something. They called it bloody red and they weren't kidding. That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah, bronze would be a good highlight color for green, yeah. You can smell them apart. Genius. Genius. Go for another sense. Yeah. I'm surprised I need to do this because it's like the plan was to just dry brush some subtle highlights in. Let's try, you know, should I do bronze flesh tone or should I do orange? Don't. So here's the bronze flesh tone and here's the orange. I feel like this might be too close to the yellow, actually. It's like really yellow. I'm gonna go for this orange. It's canonical for young Vrusk. I'm gonna try this orange. Orange fire. Yeah, it's an interesting color. Right, let's try this. I'm not making any difference in shade, in tone at all. Now I'm gun shy. Putting too little on. Like, I mean, orange isn't close to green on a color chart, is it? What is happening? Yeah, right, and I was also thinking, like, do I need to go different tones of green? But then how do I describe that at the table? Right, you were right about the red. Yeah, this orange is not like visible at all. Man, that's super subtle. Am I crazy? That's like... All right. Make that a little bit more visible. I don't know, this is giving me like a citrus tone to me. Crazy. Is that visible at all? It's I don't think it's almost entirely non-visible. All right. So now I'm gonna take your advice about lightening it up with some white. Yeah, it's totally... I agree they look great green. I don't disagree. I like them bam green. You know, I don't have any base to color it differently. Okay, I'm gonna try to lighten this up more. Yeah, so I'm adding some white to this orange mix. Let's see if that helps. Not too much. All right, make a nice nice sherbet color is what I got here. Okay, that's clearly more visible. Possibly too much. All right, so that's clearly visible, but I don't know if it's, I don't know if I say one's yellow and one's orangish, I don't know if that's going to be detectable at the table. I'm starting to think that I might not, my only choice might to make the guns different colors, as ridiculous as that is. I'm glad that couples can watch. I'm glad that couples can watch the Old Time Mini Show. If you're just joining us in the background, welcome. Yeah, I could have made that silver. Yeah, this was a rough. This wouldn't be my top design choice, but trying to make them distinguishable at the table, this is actually kind of a tough problem. Don't know. I definitely like the yellow. Just just works. I don't know. Okay, let me try. I'm going to try it before. There's one thing I'm going to try on the good one here, and that's, can I dry brush a little white into the eyes, which I feel for me is a little bit advanced behavior. I'm going to try that and just see if I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm using, and to be clear, I'm not using the bone white. I'm using the quote unquote dead white for the Vrusk's dead eyes, dead insectoid eyes. Yeah, use a very dry brush. I agree. You know, Vino Azul, blue-green was one of my initial expectations. I thought I was going to do yellow, red, blue for highlights. So I don't think it's totally insane. teeny tiny, I got a teeny tiny itty bitty brush. Can't even see it on camera. Super dry. Yeah, I guess I might need to make the base coat different tones of green, you know. Bright green, teal, olive, you know. Yeah, that's not bad. So dark, yeah. Yeah, medium green, dark green, light green. That's, yeah, maybe, yeah. Okay. How do I tell if it's dry when I'm damping it on a white cloth? Okay, let's try this. Yeah, that's a thing. Can you see that? It's actually kind of working. Huh? Actually, that's one of my better ideas. Actually, I don't know how well it's coming on the camera. That is actually you can see that here. That actually is picking up some of the textures in the eyeball. That's a thing. That's legitimate. I like that. Teal and turquoise. Yeah, right? Interesting. You know, okay, so let me, you know, I like this eyeball dry brush. So let me do this. If that's working, let me do this on the other ones. And then we'll think about how to change their bodies. That's about right. Yeah. Get that a little further back. That's a thing, okay. Now here's my bloody horror movie Vrusk that we're going to have to redo, but... let's at least fix his eyes. Nice. Okay. So I get, you know, I get a little effect there in the eyes. I like that. Pretty cool. Yeah, thank you. Cool. All right, so at least, right, so at least we agree I have at least one that looks pretty good that I can use in the game tomorrow if he comes up. Actually, his toe there is not quite green. So I got this one with the yellow highlights that is legitimate. All things considered, I mean, that's clearly, you know, the easiest, probably best tone to give them. A particular combination. So that's what we can use for our player character tomorrow night. And then I think I'm going to have to think about these really great suggestions for, I guess the highlights. The highlights aren't cutting it to distinguish the other ones. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to redo the bodies with different overall body tones. I think you're right about that. Yeah, I did not intend to have horror Vrusk there. That was unintentional accident. Feel free to steal that. If anybody needs a horror movie Vrusk, feel free to use this paint combination. That wasn't my intent, and not something I really need at the table. For what it's worth, we're playing every other week. So we played 2 weeks ago is what it was. The plan would be tomorrow night. At least one person has another event they have to go to, so actually that's a little bit up in the air now. Hopefully we'll be playing tomorrow night, and then 2 weeks again after that would be the idea. So normally I get to I'm finishing like new miniatures about every other game session the way the tempo is going. So cool. I like these guys. I mean, I like the rest. The casting was incredibly challenging. Aside from me trying to distinguish multiple guys at the same table, the painting's actually pretty good. I kind of like that. For some reason, it just kind of works. Kind of works for my abilities at the moment. I guess if they were wearing some kind of garment, A, it would make sense. B, it would be a little bit more work on my end, but C, easier to distinguish them. So anyway, that's what we got here. I don't play at my place. I play at a friend's house. And for what it's worth, if you go back and rewind to the start of this stream, I have my little box that I carry for travel miniatures. And you know, I'm trying to pick a fairly small amount of stuff that I can carry to a friend's house. Oh, I should also paint the underside of that. You know, I'm gonna paint the underside of my spaceship base as well, as long as I'm here. Nice and black all the way around. Okay. So there's that. Replacement spaceship base. Urge to bend and repose those arms. Yeah, I don't think I can accomplish that with plastic stuff. I think there's at least a possibility with metal stuff. I think I'm going to snap it. And there's at least one of the legs that I was taking some flash off, and I came really close to cracking it. So I've got to be a little careful with that. But pretty good. So I can do. I'm gonna redo the green stuff. Maybe we'll do that next week, possibly. Maybe I'll do it offline. So we'll see if I get inspired to possibly do more painting offline, or Or maybe we'll do that on the stream next week. Or I'll start in on a new miniature. I'll pick maybe one of the humans I think I need to add to my player character set. So maybe one of those things. One of those things we'll do next week. So I'm going to wrap up here. Oh, geez, we're way past 11 o'clock. So went a little longer than normal because I'm having so much fun. Time flies. I did not realize that. So thanks for hanging out on the stream. We'll be back in 1 week for maybe painting, maybe more mold making possibly. Paul and I will be back on Sunday for more Wandering DMs with our D&D chat at 1 p.m. Eastern Time like we almost always do. So look for that. Again, if you're not a patron already, the Wandering DMs channel, we do have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/wanderingdms. And as we always say, all of our tiers get you access to our Discord server, where we're constantly having more conversations with our fans about D&D or Star Frontiers or horror games or new D&D we have a channel for. And we have a whole channel for miniatures and also software games and stuff like that. So if you're not already there, we would love to see you there. And there's people that are much more talented than I am with the painting stuff. So we can all get some handy advice from those folks. And we would love to see you there. So that's what we got going on in the next week or so. And thank you guys so much for hanging out and your advice and your patience. Painting's not my favorite thing. With you guys hanging out, now it is. So that was a really cool evening for me. So thanks for that. So I'm going to wrap up here and hope you have a good weekend and next week. And we'll plan to see you next week for more of Dan's Old Time Mini Show. Take care, everybody.